All right, 7 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is approval of minutes of the executive session. Does anybody have any edits, dates, modifications?
I'm here.
Great.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve them?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Liz is not here. Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Abstain.
Barbara Yaglovsky,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Pasamato.
Yes. All right, next up is the approval of our open session meeting minutes of last meeting on 3/6/25. Give any updates, modifications, or changes that need to be made to that?
Nope.
I'm seeing head shakes, so okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Abstain.
Barbara Yaglovsky,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes. Okay, 7 p.m. Notice of intent, 38 Sears Road, map 63, lot 14. Reconstruction of pool and lawn area in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the South River Wetlands Bylaw. The South River Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, March 27, 2025 at 7 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located at 38 Sears Road, map 63, lot 14. The applicant and owner, Michael DePinto. The project description is a reconstruction of a pool and lawn area.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Ringwall from Goldsmith Preston Ringwall as representative for the applicant. And Mr. Chair, if I may make a minor correction, Mr. DePinto is with Curtis Landscape Contractors, and the actual owner is Mr. Paul Schneider.
Okay, thank you for that, for the record. Thank you.
Not a problem. With your permission, may I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, if I can blow this up a little bit. So the property that we're discussing this evening is at 38 Sears Road. It's roughly 7 3/4 acre lot. The actual driveway comes in off of Sears Lane, a private way. The house is located in the northern portion of the lot. With the pool, the area in this black box, the area that we're here to talk about this evening. And this on the site plan, I have an existing conditions on the top with the wetland line on the west and south of the property of the work area. And on the lower portion of the property, of the plan rather, is the proposed work. This existing pool, deck, and landscaped area is to be reworked under this notice of intent. As you can see, the wetland line is to the west and the south. The 100-foot buffer line comes right through almost the middle of the pool, and then across the property from here. Everything that's existing is looking to be remodeled or removed and replaced, with the exception of the pool house and the general generator and the construction around that general area itself. The 50-foot setback is just outside of that area, and the 20-foot no disturb line is actually outside of the fence. There's a fence right here on the property, a chain link fence around the pool is required by zoning. And so that your no disturb area is fortunately outside of that fence area. So the work that we're proposing is all within the existing disturbed area, the existing lawn and landscaping area. The existing pool will be removed and replaced, very similar size, and the same with the deck. will actually have about 24 square feet less deck impervious area, about 67 square feet less impervious area within the wetland buffer zone, and about 1,600 square feet less landscaped area. The current landscape comes out into the lawn a bit here and over in here, and over in this area as well. Those areas will be converted back into lawn grass area as proposed. Access for this, we had neglected to label that, and your consultant raised that issue. What we did do is we modified the plan for a couple issues that the consultant brought up, and I submitted that early this morning via the portal. But basically we'll be coming off the driveway on the garage side where the driveway comes up by the house. We'll have a construction access area here, and then there'll be across the lawn, which would be coming across this portion of the yard here. We have our stockpile, proposed stockpile if needed outside the 100-foot buffer zone, as shown here on the site plan. In a moment, I'll get to the detail on the second page for the construction access. The landscaping that is in here is going to be all removed and replaced. We had proposed from the landscape architect, different from the landscape contractor, MDLA. Michael D'Angelo, landscape architecture, has been working on the site. We've added a plant list of the proposed plants. Mostly of these are within the buffer zone. The ones that have 2 asterisks on it are the ones from Dr. Robert Geer's native pollinator list. The ones that are just a single asterisk are native plants. And then there are 2 that they have on the list that are not native to the area. They're a basic hydrangea and a Pinaceum virgatum. I'm sorry, not that one. I can't even pronounce this one. Pervasia, but it's basically a sage, and it is. It's not a spreading plant. It's kind of a silver green foliage with nice purple flowers. It kind of creates about a 3 to 5 foot wide and tall bush, and fits well into the landscape. And we're hoping that the commission will be all right with a couple of non-natives within the buffer zone, within this planting area that they have proposed. One of the comments that your consultant raised on the site visit was that there was only there wasn't an up-gradient wetland log, and Matt Morrow of Morrow Environmental did the delineation. He had submitted that to us last night, and last night we added that into the portal as well. The log that he had was right on the line, and it showed both upland and non-upland plants, and so we just added another one as requested by your consultant. The consultant raised the question about the pool itself. We did not address that in the narrative. My apologies. The pool itself is going to be a saltwater pool. If you're familiar with those, they do not have a backwash per se. They have a cartridge filter that is used, and it's replaced roughly every 5 years. So there's no need for a backwash area. The consultant also raised the question about the runoff from the deck. This is going to be, again, a slightly smaller area, and it will be draining towards the landscaped areas. But I have learned that it will have the final surface on the top is a floating wood deck that sits on a concrete base, and it will be pitched, and they are planning to put in 2 dry walls, one on either side, and they'd be under the landscaped areas that are being proposed here. So they will be recharging the runoff from the pool deck, which is currently just recharged through the landscaping beds as at present. And we also had, as I turn to the second page here, zoom out just a whisker. There were in our general notes, and I apologize for this, we were hurrying to make your deadline for this meeting. It was kind of a last minute project. They're trying to get this going this year. And I missed in here that they had not changed out the hay bale terminology for straw. We all know that hay bales are not a light thing. And so they've got straw wattles have been updated in these notes, and that's why there's the red cloud around that. And that was part of the plan that was submitted to you this morning, as well as the addition of the construction entrance. The detail for a construction entrance that would come off of their driveway and into the lawn area, again on the up gradient side, the eastern side, away from the wetlands, and we address that. And with that, I turn it over to the commission for any questions that they might have.
So Laura, we're still waiting for a DEP number, is that correct?
Yes.
As of my last check, first thing this morning, that is correct. I have not seen one come up yet. I'll check
Yeah.
while we're talking though.
Okay, so given that, we're going to have to continue, but before we do that, let's open up the commission for any questions or concerns here so that we can get those addressed before the next meeting when we'll have to continue this too.
It was helpful to see the list of native plants. It looked like they were, the smaller types of plants, but it does seem like on this plan, there are a number of proposed shrubs. Maybe I missed it. Are those also going to be native?
Yes, they are on here, and then they're on this this list. They have the Amelanchier, which is the small tree. They've got the ilex, the inkberry. I misplaced my list here. Give me 30 seconds while I. Here it is. They have that. They've got a couple of these, the fragrant sumac. So there's a couple that get of larger sizes, but this is mostly everything that is on here is a pollinator, active for bringing in pollinators into the area, all flowering, and as I said, mostly natives, a lot of grasses and others on there.
Thank you.
So our policy for the last several years, 6-8 years, we've required that all plantings within the buffer zone be native species. We've been uniform about that. So I'm uncomfortable with proposing non-natives within the buffer zone. But other than that, the plan looks fantastic. No other concerns.
Yeah, so just as a nit, I see that Sears Road is referred to as Sears Lane on the plan.
Yes, that's we'll go back over here to the locus. Sears Lane is the private drive. Sears Road is down here. The address is based off of Sears Road, but the access itself is off of Sears Lane, sir.
So all right, the private drive has got a name, Sears Lane.
That's correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Mr. Orzel from Lucas Environmental, any comments?
I think many of my comments were addressed. I will say I have not seen the revised information. I had a chance to look that over that was submitted apparently this morning. I can say that I met with the applicant's wetland consultant, Matt Merrill, in the field. We reviewed the delineation. I don't have any major problems. Some of the flags I thought near the beginning of the line were a little bit high, but nothing was too low. So the delineation looks okay. A couple of other things I noted, kind of walking around the property. I did see one approximately 12-inch tree that had appeared to have been recently cut. The stump remained just outside the fence, probably close to the 20-foot no work zone. I was just wondering what that was about, if the tree had been damaged and needed to be cut, or what happened with that. There was also kind of northwest of the proposed work, a long plastic drain pipe coming out and discharging above the top of the slope. And I was wondering what that was carrying water from. It's on the slope that discharges down to the wetland area. It's not in the wetland, but the water would get there. I also did see in one location at the base of the slope to the west of the proposed work, to the west of the proposed tennis court, which is north of the proposed work. Right along the wetland line, there was a deposit of hard true material. It's a clay hard true court. And these, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they need to be swept every once in a while, and the material replaced every so often. And it appears that some of that material had been being dumped over the slope and accumulated at the base of the slope, maybe a couple of inches deep. That should probably be raked out. It's not a, significant area, but I would think it should be raked out from the edge of the wetland by hand, and also, any further, depositing of that material into the wetland or on that slope should be avoided. Let's see if there's anything else that wasn't covered. I think that all the other comments that I had were pretty well covered in the presentation.
Okay, thanks.
Mr.
So
Chair?
in the continuance of this, I think over the next 2+ weeks, we meet in 3 weeks, that any Mr. Orzel's comments from Lucas Environmental should be addressed, along with looking at the fact that there are non-native species on the list, right? So in the buffer zone, we've really stuck to the fact that we want native species there, and there's a couple proposed that aren't. So I think that should be revisited, as Mr. Smith pointed out.
I will speak to the landscape architect on that matter.
Okay.
And do I need to make a change on that, or do you want to just address that in an order of conditions when the time comes?
I think we prefer a change,
Okay. All right.
right? So that's something we have pretty much stuck to and not wavered from. So if you wanted to make a change, and you would probably need to ask for a waiver with a justification.
Right. I will bring that to the landscape architect's attention and review with them on that.
Okay.
I also, a couple things that your consultant just raised. We got the report yesterday midday and immediately reached out to folks to try to get answers. I do not have an answer on the tree. I'm going to assume that it was either diseased or dead. The drain, we have not been able to figure out where that comes from yet. The property owner and the landscape contractor are aware that they shouldn't put any more anything in the buffer zone as far as whatever was the material from the tennis court. We'll gladly address those issues. I don't think that those are anything I need to add to a plan, but If you want to now make them as a condition, we'll do that. One question I do have for you, there were a few minor things in the narrative of the project. My engineer that was preparing it, and I read it as he had written it. He mentioned that the project is in the buffer zone. He was meaning 100% in the buffer zone. He was meaning that the work was in the buffer and not in the wetlands. But I can have that language redone if that's something you'd like, since we have a little bit of time to the next meeting, or it's really a kind of a non-issue. I can let it be. It's up to you folks.
Yeah, through the
You're
chair.
muted, sir.
I had just noted that because it could be read either way. I figured that was the intent of the language, but it could be misunderstood, so that was why I pointed it out.
So should I modify the plan, or I mean the narrative, or not? You're muted, sir. Mr. Chair, you're muted.
Sorry, I had a coughing fit. I'm back.
Okay.
I would say, given this time, I would update the narrative to be accurate.
Okay, yes, sir, we will do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. When will we continue to, sir?
3 weeks from tonight?
It's actually only 2 weeks. I think there was a reason that we changed the schedule. So it's April 10th is our next meeting.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So 2 weeks.
Is there a time at that for that, sir? or-
Um,
We can do it at 7 if you want.
Be great with me.
Okay, 7 it is, on April 10th.
Super.
So do I hear a motion to continue to April 10th, 7 PM?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor?
Who was the first on that? I'm sorry.
that was Melissa.
Melissa's not here.
What?
Excuse me, Melinda, I'm so sorry. Were you the one?
Nope, it wasn't me.
No?
It was me.
I was on mute.
Okay. All right. Sorry. All right. So Liz and Ben. Okay. Zulik,
Yes.
Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Barbary Glavsky.
Yes,
Oh, sorry, didn't hear you.
okay.
Smith
Yes.
and Passamato.
Yes.
Okay. Mark, can I ask a question really quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Bruce, I heard you say something about Matt uploading the upgradient wetland log to the portal.
Yes.
I don't see that. I saw the revised plan, but I don't see any other attachments. So if he could send that to me and then I can get that over to Joe.
Not a problem. Kayla, the engineer worked on it, did it last night or yesterday evening. But I'll make sure that we take another stab at it, and if it doesn't go through, we'll email it over to you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Folks, thank you for your time. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, have a good night.
You too.
Okay, next up, 7:10 PM stormwater management permit, 48 Main Street. In accordance with the provisions of the South Road Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, South Road Town Code, Chapter 154. The South Road Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, March 27, 2025 at 7:10 PM by a virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a stormwater management permit for project located at 48 Main Street, map 53, lot 11, for the applicant Phase School. The project description is the construction of a building addition.
So, hello, my name is Chris Hodney. I am with Niche Engineering, civil engineer working on this project, and I think I'm the only one, I'm looking at the list of attendees. I think I'm the only one from our project team here tonight, so I'll be representing the entire team. So we were here, I think, 3 weeks ago, and I had gone through the project. We were waiting on the peer review letter. We received that a week ago Monday, so we've had that since the 17th. We still have not finalized the plans. We actually met with planning board on Monday, have a few revisions to make based on that. So we're trying to get this all done at once. I'm happy to walk through the plans again if you'd like. I would love to get any comments that you have so we can work those into any other changes that we need to make. So just as a brief overview, this is a proposed 9,000 square foot addition to the primary school building at the Fay School, which is at 48 Main. It'll have 4 classrooms in it and a multi-purpose room. The stormwater management permit became applicable because we had to file for major site plan for that. So we are here with this stormwater management plan. The land disturbance is about 26,000 square feet, all in, and that includes the relocation of 2 storm drains and a sewer which run underneath the building as well. Runoff from the roof is going to be directed to this. Oh, actually, I'm not sharing my screen. Can I share my screen? There we go. So runoff from the roof will be directed to stormwater management system, which will be located adjacent to the building. One of the comments that we had received is this will probably move out into this open space over here. This system it's essentially sized to reduce the rates and to do a little bit of stormwater treatment. We're getting to the 50% phosphorus level with this before it ends up discharging right back to the same storm drain where it does today, which goes out to the wetland. And just to show, just based on our HydroCAD analysis, the existing and proposed rates coming off the site. So we're showing a reduction in 2, 10, 25 in the 100-year storms here. So I'll open up to any questions that the commission has. This is a relatively small project that we're doing here, but I'd love to get any questions.
Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Okay.
No.
I actually have one question for the commission then. So in the review letter that we received, one of the questions was this number 12, asking just the potential for a post-development downstream analysis if the commission requests it. Just so we can streamline this, if that's something that you would like in, anything in addition to what I just showed you with the rates, just figured I would ask here before we respond to the letter.
Let's say opinions with respect to this.
I'm not seeing anything, troubling that would require a downstream analysis. To my mind, this is if someone is taking advantage of the DEP requirement to completely mitigate the 2-year and 10-year storm events and just simply prove that there are no adverse impacts to the 100-year event. Under a circumstance like that, I think a demonstration of no adverse impacts would require a downstream analysis for the 100-year event. But in a situation like this, where the storm events are mitigated, I just don't see a strong need for that.
Okay, that was my hope, and that
Yeah.
would be my argument as well. I just wanted to confirm that here. And we'll respond accordingly to the letter with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I was struggling with this as well. So, yeah, I'm in Ben's camp on this.
Great.
Anything else?
Yeah, and just so you're aware, so we'll be back in front of planning board in a few weeks, and so we still need to make some response. We still need to respond to some of the comments for that. So our plan is to get this back to you, Lara, so you can get this back over to Fuss and O'Neill to review our responses by the end of next week.
So you said you're gonna be in front of planning board in a few weeks.
Yeah.
We meet in 2.
Yep.
Are you gonna come here before you go there?
Well, I'd like to come here before we go there if we can, yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll continue this to meeting of April 10th. I guess we can sign you up for 7:10 p.m. again.
Works for me.
Does that work, Laura?
Yep. Sorry, that's
Okay.
needed.
All right, so do I hear a motion to continue?
Who moved?
There's a second.
Second,
All in favor?
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Barbary Glowski.
Abstain.
Oh, right.
Yeah. thank
Forgot
you.
about that. Sorry.
Mm,
Smith
Yes.
and Pasamato.
Yes.
Alright.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. All right, so next up, 720, notice of intent, 12 Wood Street. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the South Row Wetlands Bylaw, the South Row Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, March 27th, 2025 at 7:20 PM via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider notice of intent for a project located at 12 Wood Street, map 1, lot 22. The applicant and owner, Alberto Jara. The project description is to replace a failing septic system and construction of a porch and deck. So are they
Hey,
here?
Everyone, Karen. Yep, Karen Skinnick here. Also, I have a few others with me. I don't know if they need to be let in. Paul D. Simone, the surveyor working on the project, and the owner. Alberto.
I have Alberto here. I don't know. There's somebody here that says
Phone
admin.
number?
I'm here.
No, it just
Hello.
says admin. Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
My name's I'll
Uh,
be back in 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, I'm just
Hi,
checking on the.
Karen.
Hi, everyone. What's that? So the surveyor is saying that he can't get into the meeting? That's a problem. Okay, so as you know, we're here for a septic system and deck, small deck and small back porch on the house. I met Joe out on the site. We went through the flags, we adjusted a few, added a few. I think we were both happy with the outcome of that site visit. There were some issues with the flagging that the surveyor was gonna speak to. But he's unable to get on. He said he added everything that he thought was needed. Maybe he missed something, but I think most of it was covered. Joe, do you agree or?
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the flags and the delineation lines are, the flags are all as we had agreed to in the field. There's a couple of issues with some of the labeling and one of the flags not being connected, by a line to the adjacent flags. But I think that's outlined in the review. I don't know if we're gonna get into those specifics now or not.
Okay, so you also had a comment regarding the location of the system. And why that was the best location. So looking at the plan, there's a well radius and there's also a wooded ledge outcropping. So this would be the best area because of those situations. So I did send this paperwork in. I don't know if it got lost in the shuffle when Melissa had gone. There was a couple of like the inland box wasn't checked off. That was sent. And the answer to these, this issue with the alternative analysis was addressed also. So I can certainly send that to you tomorrow.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, the alternatives analysis, I did see a revised alternative analysis. Which it speaks to the septic system, which I think is pretty clear. There's not a lot of places
Right.
on the lot where that can go. But it fails to address at all the proposed deck at the back of the house. And I think that's what that needs to be addressed as far as
Deck at the back of the house.
back at the house being close to the river, and whether or not it meets the requirement for not being any closer to the river than existing conditions.
So we're actually considering that impervious because there's spaces between the wood. So the water can flow through that. I don't know if that makes any difference to you or,
Yeah, I mean, if the water can flow through the deck.
Yes.
It's pervious below, it can.
and it's gonna, yes, it will remain pervious.
I'm just checking my comments here. If you want to address anything else for a second, then go ahead.
Yeah.
To the chair, yeah, I found the comment, I just was trying to remember which exact one of the standards it was that was in question. So one of the performance standards for work in a previously developed riverfront area is that the proposed work, including expansion of existing structures, shall be located outside the riverfront area or toward the riverfront area boundary and away from the river, except if you're doing mitigation. So that's the one I think that is still needs to be discussed. Technically, it's not located away from the river, it's located closer to the river or on the river side of the structure. So the commission needs to discuss whether that would be considered allowable or if a waiver would have to be granted for that.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you would like us to do some mitigation, add some plantings, we'd be happy to do that. Add a tree. Very happy. Alberto, do you agree?
Yeah. Whatever is faster.
Any opinions from the commission? I'm seeing folks
Yeah,
unmute, so.
Sorry, I think I'd like to see some mitigation proposed for that, either in the form of plantings or some other low-hanging fruit is typically invasives management on the site might be another possibility. I don't know if that's a possibility on the site. I'm saying in town it's frequently something that can be done, but something along those lines.
Joe, what's the situation with invasives on the site?
Trying to remember specifically. There is, I know, I'm not sure with regard to the exact property line. I know there's some bittersweet and multiflora rose and things.
There's some burning bush also.
As you get down by the river, I'm not sure where that is with respect to the property line. It might actually be off the property. But I don't think there's a lot on the property unless you get further back out of the riverfront area. Karen, is that what you recall also?
Yes, yes, in respect to the property lines, I'm not sure exactly where it was, but the owner is happy to address that and do some plantings. Certainly to close this up.
So would the commission have appetite to have a condition where if there's any invasives on the site, that we request removal? And in addition to that, if there's not, we request some plantings.
Perfect, yep.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
I just want to sort of state the obvious. It's great that the septic system is getting updated, given where it is, and so that's a big win as well.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
true.
And dragging it out is not good.
Exactly.
Right. So in terms of plantings, right, I'm not interested in breaking the bank here, but we need to probably come up with something that is that we recommend, right, in terms of, some sort of shrub or tree in terms of quantity or something.
Yeah, I guess first I would ask Joe, I haven't been to the site, so I don't know what wetland species sort of predominate there, but is there an appropriate species or two that's available in you know, herbaceous or shrub form or sapling form that that would contribute to habitat on the site that we should be considering?
Yeah, I think, potentially, I would think maybe some shrub species, some facultative or even upland shrub species. At the top of the bank along the river, would be appropriate. I know further down the stream, there's some, sweet pepperbush, growing naturally. I think that would be appropriate. You know, Karen, if you have any other ideas.
So there's a lot of high bush blueberry on the site, so I don't,
There is high bush blueberry further off the river, away from the river.
Yeah.
That's also present, yeah. That would be good. As far as habitat improvement, that's it.
So it sounds like we'd be talking in the area of the bank of the river. Is that where you think the plantings
That would
would
be my recommendation, as the reason for mitigation is putting the structure, you know, closer to on the river side of the existing structure rather than on the far side. Mhm. And I think it's pretty much lawn right now up to the top of the bank along the river. So there's some room there, I think, for some plantings of some shrubs.
Okay, so we're close to the transition from lawn into shrub area or whatever, somewhere in that.
Well, it's a really rocky bouldery slope down to the river.
Okay. Okay.
From the lawn.
So at that back river edge of the lawn, and it sounds like pepperbush, high bush blueberry are two appropriate species. Just the plan, because the plan only shows such a small portion of the property, it's difficult for me to get a sense of the extent of the area and the number of plantings that would be required there. I don't think certainly don't think it's a massive number. But
I'm
Joe,
happy to work that out with Joe. If that
Karen, do you have the
Sounds
plan
good.
with you there that you can share now on the screen? Does anyone?
I actually do, yes.
Because
Is that
the area is very bushy, you know, all around. You know, it's just the one area where the house is, where, you know, it's clear just around the house, really. You know, it's even difficult to navigate there. So most of the lot is green area, really.
yeah, could we pull that plan up?
Absolutely, yeah.
Karen, do you want to share it or would you like me to? Oh,
I can
there you
share
go.
it.
Perfect.
I think Matt wants to be on. Is he trying to be on? I can't see it, but maybe.
I don't see anybody, Matt,
Oh, no?
in the attendees, no.
Okay. Is Paul on, Karen?
He couldn't get on.
Oh, okay.
So Joe, can you point out, I'm sorry, through the chair?
Can you blow that up a little
Joe-
bit in the middle?
Sure. So do you want me to blow it up a little?
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you.
Through the chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you can pull up some of the photos that were submitted previously.
Those I don't have. I just have the plan. I'm sorry.
I don't know if Laura could pull those up or not, or I can share a screen and some of the photos of that area.
That might help, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Hold on. I want to make sure I'm pulling up the right ones, but Joe, if you wanted to share
Yeah,
your screen,
go
you could do that too, if that's easier.
Yeah, well, no, I can, if you pull up like numbers 50, 70 flag, photos 50, 70, 50, 71. If that, I can, or I can share, whatever you'd like to do.
Might be easier if you share. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
That is, let me see if I can. That's the general area there. Let me see if I can scroll here.
That's where the deck would be,
Yeah.
right there.
And you're not planning on changing that wall at all?
Am I?
Yeah, is that wall gonna remain as it is?
No, yeah. Well, we'll patch it up nicely, but
Yeah, but you're not gonna grade it or you're gonna leave a wall there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what? Go,
Yeah,
can you go back, Joe, to that picture just for a second?
So I'm just going, so kind of looking from there. And then a little closer, and then looking to the left. There you can see, what's between that area and the river. That's a little bit further.
It feels to me like we're looking at sort of a maximum of like 6 to 8
Yeah.
plantings. A mix of high bush blueberry and pepper bush along the edge of the yard, where it seems like the yard is going to be
Yeah, it's
maybe
kind of,
pushed back a little bit by the work to replace the septic system, but along that edge. Does that sound right?
The septic system is the other side of the house.
yeah, the septic system's
Oh,
nowhere
excuse
near this. This would
I'm sorry.
near
No,
the deck.
The
it's going towards the land
thank you.
away from the river.
So if you can see my cursor, I think, somewhere,
Yeah,
in this area and then going this way also probably be appropriate.
Where it's so rocky, will they grow?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you get.
It's pretty rocky in there.
There is pretty rocky.
Yeah, the house sits on a bedrock.
Yeah.
No, it really does. It's amazing.
Well, I also wonder, there are all these tall trees and some of these plants like sun.
Yeah, they're gonna even take.
It,
And I think the exposure there is, that's the north side of the house. So you'd have your southern sun would be coming over the top of the house for a fair period, I think. And then we could come up with a plant list with some more shade tolerant plants, just off the top of my head. I wouldn't want to be throwing things out there without looking at it a little bit more closely, but
I feel like we could condition something like the applicant in consultation with our consultant will develop a plant list and planting locations for a half dozen plantings along the southern edge of the property.
yes, southern edge. I'm looking at the arrows the wrong way. I stand corrected. I was saying north, that's actually south. So that should actually have pretty good exposure, because river is to the south, and it's fairly open.
Yeah. I mean, that certainly sounds reasonable to me,
Mhm.
so. Well, with that, is there any other open items with respect to this application?
Don't think so.
Or we got comments back. We had a bit of discussion around this, I think.
Mhm.
I think we're good. So I think we can close the hearing. Is there anybody from the public that want to make any comments with respect to this application? If so, please raise your hand. We'll let you in.
No hands.
Nothing, no hands, okay. All right, well, with that, I entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Zulik? Zulik, sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
yes.
Barbary Glowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes. All right, thank you, folks.
Great, thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay,
You everyone. Have a good night.
yep. Hey, we're running a little behind, so we're at the 7:30. Public hearing, notice of intent, stormwater management permit, 26 Meadow Lane, map 56 lot 14, construct a flexible development with 3 single-family units and 1 duplex unit. The applicant has requested a continuance.
Correct.
Do they realize the next meeting is April 10th?
Yes, they do. They are hoping for a review back from Fuss and O'Neill before that.
Okay.
I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I am trying. So,
Okay. So, given they've asked for a continuance, do I hear a motion to continue to April 10?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second,
All in favor?
Zulik,
Yes.
Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Barbary Glowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes. All right. Next public hearing is notice of intent, 120 Turnpike Road, map 37, lot 120-4, construction of a 60-unit apartment building. In accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Master Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Southborough Conservation Commission will conduct a continued public hearing on Thursday, March 27, 2025, at 7:40 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a notice of intent for a project located 120 Turnpike Road, maps 37, lot 120-4, for the applicant FD 120 Turnpike LLC. The project description is a construction of a 60-unit apartment building. So my understanding is that we have revised materials, and we're waiting for consultant responses.
Joe has the revised materials, but has not had a chance to provide a formal memo as of yet.
Okay,
So we're just waiting on that.
okay. And are the representatives from the application here or no?
Yes, we have Mitch and Brian both here.
Okay,
Good evening.
evening.
So
What do you have to say for yourself?
yeah. So we submitted revised materials on Monday for the commission and for Lucas Environmental to review. So I think that's fine that Joe hasn't had time to really dive into it. If it's okay with the commission, we'd like to just briefly go over what we've provided for revised materials. We appreciated Joe's comment response letter. We received that a few weeks ago on the day of the last hearing. So we reviewed that prior to the hearing with the project team. Project team decided these comments were very reasonable and we're more than happy to accommodate those. So we continued that hearing and provided the submittal this Monday. So what I can do is just run through real quick all the responses that make sense to run through, and just so the commission knows what has been provided. And then we can wait for Joe's memo confirming that all the comments have been addressed. And then ideally at that April 7th or what was it, April 10th hearing, we could obtain an order conditions, hopefully from the commission. So would I be able to share my screen?
Yeah, go
Great,
ahead.
thank you. Also, I'm accompanied this evening by Brian Charville, the applicant for the project.
Good evening, everyone. My Zoom has not been recognizing my camera, so forgive me for not showing my face.
You're forgiven.
Thank you, Mr.
You're not in your
Okay.
pajamas, are you?
Something about Zoom today, just not recognizing my camera. Audio only.
Okay.
Okay, so can the commission see my screen?
I can.
Awesome, great. So this was the response letter to Lucas Environmental's comment letter. I'll just show you a broad overview of what was provided. So we had a 6-page response letter to the comments. Then we had a revised Form 3, which addressed one of Lucas Environmental's comments to revise Form 3. So that was revised because we added additional fees to the project. We had a additional building proposed in the 100-foot buffer zone, that 10-unit garage. So that triggered a second fee for a building associated with an apartment building. So we provided those additional checks to the commission and have revised the form accordingly. We were also requested to verify that all the abutters who had been notified at the time of the NOI filing several months ago was also if it matched the list of current abutters. So we obtained another certified abutters list, submitted it with this application with the previous certified abutters list from the initial filing to prove that all abutters had been notified at that time. So no new abutter entities had joined the club of certified abutters. Then we have this checklist for the town of Southborough's notice of intent. So that is typically a bylaw requirement, but we were more than happy to just fill out the checklist for you. So that was provided. Additionally, another comment that was addressed from the Lucas letter was providing a wetland border report that was updated for the current resource areas on site. So we provided a revised, very simple wetland border report just to address all the resource areas that are on site as of today that were identified by Goddard and confirmed in the field by Lucas. So we provided that with our typical maps, soil maps, and DEP data forms from the original delineation. Additionally, we have our isolated vegetated wetland replication plan, which had a few minor revisions throughout the document. And I can detail those when we go through that response letter. And then we provided the full set of revised site plans, which addressed the comments that Lucas had requested revisions to. So we have several pages to go through there, but we only have to check out a few of them. So going to our first comments, no comments were needed for these. This first one was about providing an additional check to address the additional filing fees. Like I said, that has been now addressed. An updated WPA Form 3 to go along with that has been provided. All abutters were notified, like I said. The notice of intent checklist was provided. This comment was requesting a proposed maintenance of the pervious paving blocks that are proposed on the plan. So that that was previously provided in the operation and maintenance plan. And that can be found on pages 3 and 4.
Through the chair.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't believe I have a copy of the O&M plan, so if I can get that, that'd be great.
Oh, okay. I will, I'll coordinate with project team to get that to you and Laura and the commission. Thank you for letting me know that, Joe. Okay. The revised wetland border report that was provided. This comment requested square footages of the impacts on site for the 20-foot no work zone. So we quantified the square footage there, noting that almost all of it was for the access to the proposed replication area, except for a few square feet by the pond that had previously been altered and is in a lawn state. And the project also proposed this amount of square feet in the 100-foot buffer zone, the vast majority of which had previously been altered. Most of it is that existing parking lot. Other portions of it are upland forest area adjacent to that parking lot and pond. And I didn't give full square footages for the entire 100-foot buffer zone and 20-foot buffer zone on site, only because there was unconfirmed boundaries of resource areas off-site to the north on the DCR property, and I would not have wanted to provide inaccurate total square footages for the entirety of the site. So we just gave you square footages for just our project site impact areas. The next comment requests some additional plantings between the parking lot and the pond. So right now there's some existing lawn there, and Lucas had requested some native shrubs be planted in that area. And we went with proposing 4 trees in that area. We felt trees might be a more suitable plant to have in that location. And that is shown on the landscaping plan. This comment here, we're going to get into the IVW replication plan. So we did provide details on sheet D2 of the full revised site plan set. So here we provided several details regarding the wetland replication area. And on that comment response letter, they requested grading within the IVW replication area. So it doesn't look like there's grading on there, but there is. We have a spot grade of plus or minus 264 elevation there, because that will vary based on site conditions when the wetland scientists are on site with the construction crew, ensuring we've graded down to the proper elevations. And then outside of the IVW replication area, you can see we're gonna over excavate there to get it down to at least our highest elevation there is 266, and we're going to grade down to the interior where that spot grade is at 264. So there'll be a 2-foot variation in elevation between that spot grade in the center and the 266 contour just outside of our limit of IVW replication. Additionally, we have our planting schedule, which has been added to the site plans. And one of the comments had mentioned that we neglected to put the Latin name for one of the species. That has now been added. The gray birch Latin name is there. Additionally, on the conservation seed mix description, we had proposed 2/3 of a pound of seed mix, and Lucas had wondered or requested verification for why 2/3 of a pound would be proposed. And so we gave the square footage for the area that 2/3 of a pound of seed mix would cover. And this is for the disturbed areas around the replication area and for the access. So 2/3 of a pound was suitable to cover this amount of square feet of impact to the uplands surrounding the IVW and access. Additionally, we have this soil profile showing that we're going to have our plants. We're going to have 12 inches of organic topsoil, and then we're going to have our existing subgrade. I believe that covers that. We do have some replication notes also added onto the plan there. Okay. So that covered the grading. Details. Okay, the next thing is the recreation area. That used to be proposed on top of the leaching field. The recreation area is no longer proposed over the septic leaching field, so that has been removed from the site plans. Okay, then we have a comment on the landscaping plan requesting the native species to Massachusetts. So I reviewed this. The majority of them are native to Worcester County. A few of them were native to adjacent counties. Specifically, for some reason, red osier dogwood was native to some surrounding counties, but not Worcester County, which I found odd and perhaps not common knowledge. And then a few were native to the US, but not within Mass. Based on some of your comments from previous hearings this evening, I imagine the commission would like us to remove at least these ones that are native to the US, but not within Mass. What are your thoughts on keeping the ones native to Massachusetts and not Worcester County specific?
Through the chair?
Yeah, sure, I'm
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I'm perplexed as to why the list are county by county.
yeah, I was gonna mention that some of the plants that were proposed were not native to Massachusetts. Uh, Just make you aware of that, but the other ones that are native to Massachusetts but not indicated as native within Worcester County. I don't have an issue personally using plants native to Massachusetts if they're native to the adjacent county or somewhere else in the state. But that's certainly for the commission to decide.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the you know, the county makeup of Massachusetts, and Southborough's in Worcester County.
Yeah.
But to the north, south, and east of us, we're surrounded by Middlesex. So I just,
Yeah.
it's kind of perplexing that, you know, that these lists are county, but I didn't know that.
So just for some guidance for the project team, would the commission want us to only revise the plants that are non-native to Massachusetts and keep the plants that are native to Massachusetts?
If the plantings are native to Middlesex County, Mark brings up a great point. That didn't even occur to me that, you know, but that's a whole different thing than if they're native, you know, say Dukes County or something, maybe they wouldn't be appropriate here in Southborough. So my feeling is the plants that are native to Massachusetts and abutting counties, I feel very comfortable with.
Okay,
Yeah, I think common sense has to prevail here.
sounds good. We'll proceed with that. Thank you. Okay, next on here. Catch basins and labels for silt sacks in the catch basin. So those have been added. I can find where that is for you. Okay, so on the plan sheets showing our temporary construction work, we have this note here, install a silt sack in this catch basin, and it shows the orange line pointing to the catch basins that will receive silt sacks. Additionally, there's some catch basins that will be removed. So once those are shifted, those should also receive silt sacks. So that has been addressed. And those site plans too had been prepared by James Tatro, the professional engineer from Expedited Engineering. So thank you to him for providing those plan edits. Okay, the next one is about erosion control matting not being plastic. So on our detail on the site plans, they have proposed a special blanket or a specific blanket comprised of straw fiber, coconut fiber, and jute, which is far preferable to the plastic. And then this comment, feasibility of moving the temporary settling basin. So I'll show you that plan again. So this is, again, our construction plan sheet. So during construction, we'll have a temporary settling basin over here, about probably 35 feet away from the pond. And then we have our proposed stockpile area. These areas in this location are our best options for having these two, or at least the temporary settling basin, which was the comment raised. So the temporary settling basin needs to be at a down gradient location. We can't have the temporary settling basin on the hillside because water flows downhill. So this is the best location here. If we were to have it outside the buffer zone, which is, I think, where Lucas was saying perhaps maybe it could go there, the proposed stockpile area would need to be swapped with the temporary settling basin location. And the professional engineer, James Tatro, believed it would be best if the temporary settling basin was located down gradient of our proposed stockpile area, which in itself will have its own protections surrounding the stockpile area with erosion controls. So that was investigated, but this is the best construction plan that the engineer believes will be best for water quality. Okay. The 100-foot buffer zone from the flood zone AE had been added to the revised plan set. So I'll show you that as well. So over here, we have this flood zone AE as that dashed line. And then we also have this 100-foot buffer zone shown here as this black line for that 100-foot buffer zone from the flood zone AE. So the only spot we're clipping that is for our access path to the IVW replication area. And in here, we're not expecting any tree removal. Okay, no comment needed. These ones we're discussing zoning board decisions. And then this final one that we have to comment on, or felt the need to comment on, was regarding the construction mat and the installation of the force main. So we responded, the applicant has confirmed that the construction mat will not create an issue for the installation of the force main, because the force main's installation will only be a brief interruption in the availability of the mat, and after installed will be at least 5 feet below grade. So that was a response coordinated with James Tatro, professional engineer, who believes this statement will be true. So that concludes our response letter and all the revisions made. So we'll look forward to seeing Joe's response to those, and hopefully if it's anything, there'll be just minor tweaks, and we can provide, foreseeing the need to revise that landscaping plan, just make those small tweaks. But anything else, we'll hear from Joe, and we'll provide him that O&M plan as well. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Happy to address any.
Any members have any questions or comments at this time? Anybody from the public? There's a hand raised.
Joyce, you should be able to talk.
Yeah, thanks. This is Joyce Greenleaf for North Street, also Chair of Stewardship. Regarding the native plantings, I just wanted to point out that at multiple points, as we commented on the plans for this development, we did provide links and native planting lists that are native plants that in particular would be in line with the habitat we're working hard to create on the conservation land that this abuts. So I would just point that out as a resource. Happy to share it again.
Yes, that would be great, Joyce, if we could coordinate to have that list, and I can share that with the landscape architect and just share that with them, and just so they have that from you. Thank you.
Sure.
And I guess with that, I would say, I didn't realize that stewardship had attempted to start that coordination with you. If there are recommendations from stewardship, in particular with plantings that are going to be abutting the Breakneck Hill property, I would be strongly in favor of plantings that are not only native but are sort of in harmony with what already exists on that site, what will serve to enhance habitat value.
Makes sense. Okay, any other comments from anybody else before we continue the hearing? All right, do I hear a motion to continue to the next meeting, which is April 10th?
So moved.
You got a second?
Yep.
All in favor?
Zulik? Did you say yes?
Yes.
Sorry, it keeps cutting out. Farrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Barber-Glavsky,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Pasamato.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Commission.
Okay, that's the end of our scheduled public hearings. Next is Chestnut Hill Farm updates, trail and map updates and approval. Do we have anybody here from the
Hold on one sec.
trustees of the reservation?
Yep. So we have Mike Francis from the trustees here to go over some proposed trail and signage changes that need to be approved by the commission.
Okay, let's have them.
Hi, how are you
Hey,
all?
Mike.
Good, how are you?
Good to see you. Tonight I am looking to share a couple of fairly minor changes, updates to the trails and our trail map. I've included both a proposed map and an existing map to kind of show what those changes are. There are 4, and if you'd like to first start with the Oak Loop. Do you have those maps in front of you, or would it be helpful?
I do. Yeah,
Okay.
give me 1 second. Okay, so this is the proposed one. Okay.
Thank you. And if I can back up a moment, these changes, have been referenced a couple of times over the past year or so at our farm management plan meetings. Both comments from the commission and from some members of the general public as well. So the map in front of you, if we can look at the Oak Loop, the southern tip of that blue trail, it's currently about 50 or 75 feet closer to that stone wall. And there's a really kind of sharp switchback there, an acute angle. And by doing this, it better aligns with the topography and also aligns a little better as an intersecting point, as an intersection with the Overlook Trail. That segment, the southern segment of the Overlook Trail is a new proposed trail there. So that is not an existing trail, but we do hope to create that to establish a little bit of a loop option. I'll pause there to see if everyone's following along. If you need me to slow down or point out anything a little bit better.
I was just wondering if you could run through the legend of red, blue, black, orange, and yellow.
Sure. So just to kind of reference what each trail is, or
Well, so are the colors just to depict the different trails, or
yeah. Yep,
so the Outlook Trail that you were talking about there is a black line that intersects the Field Road and the Oak Loop, right?
right.
You're proposing that as being a new trail.
Yeah, the southern part of that. Yep, right there.
Yeah, right there. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the colors on the map correspond to the blazes on the trail to follow along. Those trails that are shown in black on the map they're not blazed in the field, but there are intersection signs to kind of guide people through, or in fact, the trail is mowed where it passes through a pasture or along the edge of the pasture.
Okay.
So the Overlook Trail would be a second proposed change here. Another change to the trail map itself, but no physical change in the field, is the orange trail is not currently labeled on our map. That may have been an omission in the past, so we'd like to just label that Pitch Pine Trail. And the fourth edit is the Bobolink Trail. This trail has just been updated on this map to reflect the actual location, especially where it passes into the pasture adjacent to the Chestnut Hill Road. So it just kind of jogs over into that pasture before crossing back over into the grassland habitat. So that's really just a map update. So the two physical updates here in the field that we propose is just kind of realigning the southern tip of that Oak Loop Trail, which is the blue trail. Right, and that's right. And also to establish that southern portion of the Overlook Trail, effectively creating a little bit of a loop option and providing a higher elevation to overlook the farm. That's really everything I have to share as a proposal.
Anybody have any comments, questions?
I guess just sort of as a general comment, it's been a little while since I've been out at the Chestnut Hill Farm. The last time I went with my kids, the positioning of fences, in particular in the area of the Field Road and the intersection of the Overlook Trail, and then continuing up to where Field Road intersects with Maple Trail and so forth, the fencing system made things really difficult. I understand the farm, of course, has not been active as a farm for a little while, so I haven't been out in several months. Is that still the case? Are those fences still in place? It's sort of, my recollection is it made it difficult to get from one trail to the other. There's a lot of backtracking and sort of confusion.
Yeah, the gates have all been essentially removed, taken off of their hinges, wherever they crossed, the trail. In the past, there have been, what they call like I don't know, like a kissing gate, a pass-through gate. So
Yeah.
when when the wider livestock gate is closed, there's still like a gate to kind of pass through. But since we haven't had livestock there in some time, those wider livestock gates have been removed. The fencing does remain, but it doesn't cross any trail. So we still are providing, that access along the field road, the Overlook Trail, et cetera. So, but if at any time there's a closed gate or in some way there's an obstruction, I'd be happy to take a closer look at that to make sure that we're providing the access that we're showing on this map here.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I think it looks like a thoughtful update to the system of trails, and in particular, I think people are going to enjoy that overlook that you're creating. And are you going to be shifting the bench down to the higher point?
Yes. Yeah, that would
Be nice.
that's the plan. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Mark, I do have a hand raised as well.
Okay.
Freddie, you should be able to talk.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Freddie Gillespie, 78 Southfield Road, but Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. We have been commenting on the trails for probably since almost the CR was adopted. So I'm pleased to see that you've moved the Overlook Trail further up to the higher elevation of when it cuts out from the woods. But I had a question about the Bobolink Trail. And I didn't know this was on your agenda for tonight, so I haven't walked it in a while, but the last time I did, it was really difficult to know where it was and not really well cleared. And if it's going to be on a map, it should be maintained by somebody, whether it's the town or the trustees. But on the map, it shows a stone wall to the right of the Bobolink Trail when it goes into the other pasture, but there's actually 2 stone walls there. And so it was always confusing, like which, when you are crossing, like where were you in which stone wall? It said it actually goes into the bigger meadow further in, I think now. But is there no plan to ever have any grazing in there because you're actually walking into a field with where there may be livestock? And what's the plan for that? Is it moving back? At one time they said, oh, you'd move into the other meadow if that happened, but there's no indication of that here.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
right where it says Bobolink, that to the right of it where there's a stone wall, there's actually 2 stone walls there.
Right.
And there's
Yeah.
like almost like a channel in between the 2.
I think you're right. That would help kind of orient people if that were shown on the map as well. We can have
And then
that.
at one time you were actually walking in the middle is where the trail was and it wasn't passable. I think there's like old apple trees maybe.
Mhm.
But it would just make it clearer and, if you're walking through the field, is it clearly marked where you're walking? I got stuck and there was another couple trying to walk at once and, we both went different ways, bushwhacking almost. So maybe it's been cleaned up since then, but it's just, if it's going to be on the map, it should be marked and visible where the trail is.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for those comments, Freddie. That's a good point. We can include that second stone wall on the map. And then as far as marking the trail in the field, first we wanted to go through this, process to approve the map. And then the map itself is one of our wayfinding signs that we would place at a couple of key intersections in addition to directional signage. So that southern section of the trail just south of the word Bobolink is that kind of tricky spot that we do have a sign planned for. And then where the trail enters back through the woods where it says trail on the black Bobolink trail.
Yeah.
That too is pretty well cleared and maintained now, but of course limbs and trees and stuff can come down, so we'll make sure that that's clear as well. And then in the future, if there are livestock plans to graze in that pasture, we would plan accordingly and update the signage. And if it's a significant like reroute or a permanent or semi-permanent reroute, we can come back to the commission for a review and agreement on that.
Should there be some, if I may, should there be some mention of that on the map so that you know that could happen? Or for the Conservation Commission at least to know that the trail may not always be where it's shown?
I think it's not intended right now, and I guess there are scenarios really on any of the farm pastures that might pop up, but in the past we've largely been able to manage that through gates and signage and still provide the access shown on this map. But if that were to change, then we'd come back to the commission.
Well, thank you. I do want to thank you. I don't know how long it's been that we've been talking about this overlook trail, and this is a significant step, I think. Although where it says overlook, that loop down there is, I'm assuming that's the best place you had for the other use of the farming of the rest of that, where it says cropland, because that's where the trail used to come first.
Yeah, that change had been made maybe 2 or 3 iterations ago when the livestock fence was proposed and things were rerouted at that time.
All right, I guess, thank you. I just wanted to be sure that the Conservation Commission knew that where that Bobolink trail is hasn't always been where that trail is if there's livestock there. And that could change in the future if somebody's using that pasture for grazing. So, but thank you.
Okay, so Mike, you're looking for the commission's approval?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I've heard nothing but accolades. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the trail upgrades that Mike has presented on Chestnut Hill Farm.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Bullock? Yes. Barrington?
Yes.
Upton?
Yes.
Barbary Globsky?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Pasamato?
Yes.
Okay. And do you guys need to issue any, like a letter, memo, anything like that for this?
I don't know. I think maybe just our meeting record would stand to show that we've accepted the trail proposal as presented.
Okay, great.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Okay, so let's see, other business for the commission. So Breakneck Hill Farm dump update restoration plan.
So
That's next.
it is next. We have the initial version of the restoration plan sent over by TRC and Strategic. I went with Joyce and Freddie, Taylor from TRC, Ryan from Strategic, and a couple members of their team to walk through the restoration plan at the site on Tuesday morning. I think the two things that came out of that, and Joyce and Freddie are here as well, so they can speak to their part. The two biggest things that came out that would result in plan changes would be not to use the boulders to line the property line, like around the pond, but instead to crush them and use them as subgrade fill. So that's one option that you guys can go with. I don't have the cost difference. I was hoping to get that today. But Strategic told me that it shouldn't be much different because it's either we're importing that subgrade fill or we can use the boulders on site and crush those for that purpose. And then the other thing that we need is the cover crop recommendation from stewardship. So.
Okay. So one question I had with respect to the boulders, wasn't the intent of those to be able to show some level of delineation?
I think so. Because they were going to be placed, like, let me show you. The plan can probably show it better than I can describe it. So they were going to be placed along the property line. Kind of, I don't know if you guys have been there. So these were the boulders that were proposed. And then some like around this pond edge as well. But my understanding is that members of stewardship were not interested really in having this because it would make it really difficult for invasives management down the line. So they had requested maybe we save some and use them somewhere along the site, maybe as like natural seeding, but to crush the rest and use those as.
So one of the things I struggle with a little bit is that when we issue notice of intent and things like that to delineate the 20-foot, no intrusion areas, we ask them to put monuments, right? And we ask homeowners to put monuments and to identify where they shouldn't be going in and messing around with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like to be consistent with that, with our orders of conditions and what we, do for, our order conditions and homeowners and so forth. So, if this was a monumental kind of thing to be able to differentiate something, I would want to be consistent with what we typically do. Me personally. If not these boulders, something else.
Mark, I hear what you're saying. I wonder if it could be achieved through the planting plan. I'm up there pretty much every weekend looking at them. Those boulders are massive, and I can understand why it would be challenging if they started getting bittersweet vines all over them, trying to maintain a semblance of control, not having things take over. Maybe there's a compromise where you don't have so many of them. There's a lot, and they're very, very large. I'd love to hear stewardship's perspective on this, but I'm wondering if that delineation can be achieved without so many boulders, or perhaps with a planting solution.
Yeah, the only twist to that is whether or not we have budget for it, right? Right, there's that. Having big ugly boulders isn't necessarily the thing that I would like to see either. It'd be something to be more aesthetic. But in reading, various correspondences with Melissa, I think we're running out of budget. So I'm not sure we have budget to be able to apply here.
I guess a counterpoint that I would make is that some of the pressures to intrude on the 20-foot no touch zone that are present, in a residential property or even, a commercial property for that matter, I don't think are present here in the same way. I don't think, for instance, there's a ever-present desire to increase, the size of one's lawn or whatever. And we see that all the time, where that sort of tends to creep into the 20-foot, and we sort of push back against that. So I see sort of, I don't see that same kind of pressure here on the site. The boulders are, they are humongous, and there are a lot of them. I was surprised and sort of heartened to hear that TRC said that the difference in cost to crush them and use them as subgrade fill type material is comparable to the original plan. So that there wouldn't be necessarily additional expense there. And I think I like Melinda's idea of maybe addressing that in some way through plantings. To provide a delineation to the no-touch zones, something like that. And if we did go the route of using the boulders, I would, rather than a continuous boulder wall, I guess, if that was the prevailing sentiment here, I would really push for as few as necessary, you know, spaced out at a reasonable distance, trying not to interfere with invasives management, but still provide the delineation that you're looking for, Mark. I think they're, yeah.
What do we think the cost of plantings would be? Do we have any idea?
I don't know, and I do know that the money that was approved cannot be used for maintenance of the property. It can be only be used for remediation. So I guess I'm not well versed enough to know if those plantings would be part of remediation and
Well, I
would,
think they would.
okay.
I mean, yeah, yeah, I think they certainly would, right? That'd be part of this effort of being able to remediate the dump and provide the restoration that's required, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems to make sense to me that it should be that.
I believe you're right, Mark. That's my recollection of what Melissa has shared, that the final restoration is part of the budget, but elements of the restoration that need to be maintained long-term are not part of the budget, and that will fall to stewardship's budget, you know, going forward. So whatever gets approved for the restoration, I think we have to be very cognizant that this is, you know, a responsibility that we'd be placing on stewardship to keep up with. So I'm very curious to hear stewardship's recommendations.
Yeah. You know, I'm not super in favor of boulders, to be honest with you. I mean, I think it's inviting the kids to climb all over them and, you know, and that sort of thing. You know, I don't think they're aesthetically pleasing. I don't think that they're great for the environment. So, you know, if we could, you know, have a restoration plan that include plantings, crush them for, you know, other use, I'd be in favor of that. I just want to make sure that we're not doing something different at the Breakneck Hill that we wouldn't do for a homeowner, right? Homeowner say, hey, you had me do this and look what you're doing on the conservation land. You know, right? I have a problem with that.
I don't think these boulders are aligned with any wetland lines or anything. They're aligned with the property line. So
Yeah,
we have people memorialize their property lines, at least.
you know, you mean coming like in a stone wall?
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
I mean,
people memorialize their property line, they build a stone wall.
they
or
do,
something.
but the Concom doesn't require them to do that.
No, we don't. We
Yeah.
just, you know, memorialize, you know, boundaries of wetlands and 20 foot and that's what.
Yeah, just the plans that they've proposed. There's no wetland boundaries that they're trying to delineate here. They're trying to actually just highlight the property line, I think.
I would have a question that I think maybe is better answered by Freddie and Joyce, but I know we had discussed on Tuesday that they did not want shrub plantings as part of the restoration plan because we weren't sure what was going to come up with the fill that they're bringing in and if any invasives are going to pop up. So the goal was cover crops. So I guess I would be curious how they feel about additional plantings along the property line and what that would look like. I don't know if that made sense, but
Yeah, I mean, here, let them join in.
yeah, sure. Bring them
You know, it's an
over.
open discussion, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we're trying to do what's right here and what we have budget for and
Yeah. Hi, Joyce and Freddie. You guys should be able to speak.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to go over the recommendations that we sent and want to just thank the Conservation Commission for seeing through this cleanup at Breakneck Hill Farm dump. So we're really appreciative of that. And we're at this point now, kind of this crossroads where we have this acre or so that's been cleaned up, and it's an opportunity for us to either have a fast failure where a lot of invasives come back, or a slow success. We know the seed source there has a lot of weeds and invasives in it, because we know in the surrounding areas that weren't touched, there's still a lot of bittersweet and things like that. So our fear in going straight to planting expensive shrubs and trees and the like, is that as they're getting established, the invasives also come up, and to manage them around more valuable plants is a lot more challenging than planting a cover crop that could be managed through mowing, and watch what else comes up, so that the larger long-term plantings would happen a little bit down the line after a season or two. So that if you looked at our couple of pages of recommendations that we shared last week, you know, that's what we are arguing for. And we also make an argument against the boulders, because we don't think it would be aesthetically pleasing. They are huge, and they do create a management challenge. And because that management does fall to us, we hope that you'll consider those points.
Joyce, can I ask you a quick question? So the longer term, for instance, shrub plantings, this is something that stewardship would be contemplating. You know, this project will close out, as will its budget. So stewardship would be contemplating doing this from stewardship's budget sort of over the long term, and sort of picking away at it through the future as it's sort of discovered which species thrive on the site. Do I have that right?
Well, thanks for that question, because in our conversations about the various town warrants to get the funding for this, we were under the impression that the warrant was written such that there would be money for restoration in that. That was we asked directly multiple times and had reassurance that there would be some ongoing ability for us to use those funds from the warrant that were approved at town meeting. So this idea that that money is going away is new for stewardship. It is a shift in what we understood.
Can I jump in for a second?
Please,
If I
Freddie.
may. Freddie Gillespie, a member of the Stewardship Committee. We look at it, there's two parts to it. There's a budget for the restoration. I always get their names mixed up. TRC and Strategic. And when they're closed out, it doesn't mean the project's closed out, because the site, I mean, if you've seen there, it's, you know, obviously it's going to be graded and look a little different than it does right now, but that's a massive amount of land to do a restoration project on. I know it's just an acre, but, you know, that we always thought that it was going to take time, that you don't restore that land. It's not like you just throw seed down and it grows in, or you can't even plant shrubs. We ran into this, we're aware of it, Ken's Foods, where they planted shrubs before they took care of the weed pressure. And now they're stuck with trying to manage the invasives and weeds around newly planted shrubs. We don't want to run into that. The same thing in a meadow. If it's a meadow, we're not even sure until they're finished doing it. There's going to be some new potential stream, intermittent stream flow to the pond, to maybe new wetland resource areas within there. So we we couldn't even say exactly what's going to happen, how that's going to pan out until after it's done and it's sitting there for a while. So that is why the plan, speaking with a restoration expert, that you want to do the cover crops. And we would recommend, you know, if you agreed to that, because right now the planting seeds are to be the permanent seed mix, right? That you would throw down and walk away. And we know what was there before, and there's no reason to expect that those seeds won't either come in. And we're not, you know, that's another question about how the soil that's going to be brought in. But what we do know is when soil is brought in, they usually call it sifted. It's sifted for pebbles, but I don't think there's a way of, unless you know of it, documenting that there won't be any invasives brought in. It's a common thing that happens. So that is why we wanted at least one season to see with a cover crop, and you have to manage the cover crop so it doesn't go to seed, because that becomes a problem. You know, managing that and see what comes up and treat the invasives that come up. And hopefully in the fall, we could start planting, which if you're doing seeding with native plants, that's the proper time to seed, not now.
I think I now understand my misunderstanding here. So the contractors working on the site right now, I think their role will end in the near term. But if there were a way to for us to approve a restoration plan that extends, for instance, into next year or something, do I have this correct, that elements of that restoration plan that took place next year that stewardship would be managing?
The stewardship committee, if I may, Joyce?
Yes.
Our discussions have always been, yes, we would oversee it like we oversee the rest of the management of the property, but it would be a major project, and that we would get a plan for it and, you know, make sure it happened appropriately. But the budget for that, which would come out of the funds remaining from the money authorized for the cleanup.
Okay.
That was our understanding and thought, because we don't want to just go in and, you know, if you just go in and try to plant stuff now, you're going to pay more money and more work down the road to fix it. That's been our experience with invasives.
So it sounds like ultimately, what conservation in this scenario would have to approve would be first the disposition of the boulders, but also a cover crop to get us through the next year, to condition the soil and to see what's going on with the sort of the seed store within the soil and within imported soil. And then we would, I'm guessing, would have to recommend a budget that comes out of the original article, the dump article, for in the next year, doing final restoration plantings.
That is the process stewardship committee has discussed.
Okay.
And that's the recommendation and request. And the assumption we had, that's what would happen from how we kept asking about the availability of the funds after, you know, we weren't sure if you were going to use it all for the cleanup, right?
Right.
I
I'm
think-
sorry it took me so long to wrap my mind around that. I now understand exactly where you're coming from, and it does make sense to me. The question I would have is putting that budget together. Is this something that stewardship has already? I'm guessing you've already sort of discussed what it might look like, even if you haven't put numbers to it. But
Not until we had permission
yeah,
to move forward with the cover crop scenario, because that wasn't what was on the proposal.
okay.
And so we could put one together. It's kind of hard to do until we see. I really would hesitate, because until we see how the if you've seen the site, it really is kind of hard to know what it's going to end up looking like when they're done with all the grading and with the new wet areas. I mean,
And
we've
not
walked-
knowing what the invasives that do emerge, so what the management practices will have to be, what the plantings will have to be, and the timing of those are big unknowns in that area.
We can get some advice on that and try to work towards that, but we hadn't gotten that far as a budget. And it's a side topic, but it's kind of related. There's a separate project here that has to be addressed, which isn't part of the budget for the town. It's the responsibility of the contractor, because we had a meadow that was 5 years in the making. It was significant. It was a research site. It was significant habitat and value. And about 25% of it, we had site walk before the project started and said, do not touch the meadow, put up orange fencing so you don't inadvertently. We all were in agreement. And then after they came in, they put the road right through it. And about 25%, I'm estimating by looking, but about 4,200 to 4,700 square feet has been lost. And we had discussions about, that would be of what we had originally sown. So I didn't go out and measure it, but I just got pictures from the person who did the seeding, so I can have a better understanding of how much of the original site is now under stone. And the issue there, we talked about seeding until we went and looked, and that was 3 years of invasive management, and then 2 years of seeding. And you don't just put the seed down, it's 2 years of actively managing it to make it grow into a meadow so that the native plants can outcompete the weed pressure of the non-natives that will come in even no matter what you do. And we had I just got the pictures, and I'll be happy to send to the commission tomorrow. What a beautiful meadow it was. And then you can see key points of how much is gone now. And seeding it, we'd have 2 years or more of work on our end to make it grow into a meadow. This was a mistake that shouldn't have happened, and the contractors were very apologetic, but we didn't quite clear up. They said it was their responsibility to restore, but we didn't say what that was. And I think we need some plantings beyond just throwing. And we also said if we were going to do seed, we'd have to put seed down as a cover crop and wait to see what invasives come up, because when they take that stone road off, it's going to be compacted. So they're going to have to scrape the soil up, and much of the invasive work we did will have new invasive seed bed exposed, brought to the surface, and could start growing in again. So that's not part of the town's budget, but it's on the Conservation Commission to determine what level of restoration is required for that.
Well, it's on the contractor, is it not?
Correct.
My contractor.
But what
Yeah.
level?
Well, to
Can
what
I
it
jump
was.
in? Sorry.
I have pictures of what it was.
Yeah, I would say that it's on them to bring it back to what it was.
Yeah.
My understanding is they are going to be done with this project and move on.
Well, okay, but they screwed up, so they have responsibility, and we need to hold their feet to the fire.
And the stewardship committee is asking the Conservation Commission to facilitate that, because we certainly
That's
aren't in a
fine.
position to do that. We just make
That's fine. I'd be
recommendations.
glad to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean,
You can't see my picture because my camera's broken, but I've
but
got
I
a
mean-
very big smile. Thank you.
I mean, you can't go, oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that, and then walk away. It's just not acceptable.
Mark, if I may, I spoke to Melissa this morning
Yeah.
about this. So 2 things. One, as far as the meadow, if there's restoration that needs to be done in response to damage that was done, I think we absolutely have the ability to cover that. I think possibly, I didn't double check this with Melissa, but I mean, there's an order of conditions, and I'm pretty sure one of those is that if there's any damage done by the contractor, they are responsible for fixing it. The other piece is in terms of the budget for restoration. There's kind of two things happening at the same time. So we have the compliance with the ACO and the MCP. So right now we're trying to do the site restoration under that MCP in order to close out the site with the state. And then Melissa said, if there's funds left over that were unspent, borrowed but unspent, left over from that, we could potentially put that towards some of the things that stewardship would like to do. But she said that that could also be a conversation with her when she gets back in July. Because just looking at the timeline of the restoration, it's probably gonna take until at least early May. And then if we hold funds back, and then if stewardship comes up with a management plan and a budget, and then they can take it from there with Melissa. Does that make sense? I don't know if that cleared things up or made it worse.
Well, it helped. To me, it helped, yeah.
Okay,
If-
so,
If I may,
So I think first thing, we probably need to decide what to do with the boulders. And what I'm hearing is that nobody really likes them. I agree. So we should give the contractor guidance to crush them.
Okay.
Right? And then I'm hearing is that cover crop is the restoration of choice as an intermediate remediation. And we should give the contractor guidance on that. And then we have the longer term remediation, which would be, you know, plantings or whatever, once we understand what's going to happen with this cover crop and invasives and so forth. And then lastly, we have the you know, impact to the meadow. Right? I don't mean it by it being the last thing because it's important, but you know, that's something that the contractor has to address.
And can I add, if I may, one thing to your list for possible discussion? This would speak also to the concern you raised before about, I guess, people going where they shouldn't go. Right now, the whole area, the work site, is fenced in with rented fence. And the stewards, when we did the site walk with the contractor a couple of days ago, when they're done, that fence will go. But we think it's probably a good idea to keep that fence in place during these early stages of restoration to keep people off that site while the cover crop is being planted and whatnot. And the contractor was gonna get us a price on the lease of that fencing.
So Joyce, if it were to stay, right? And continue leasing the fencing, who would take it down?
When we ended the lease, whoever.
The fence company?
Yeah, the fence company.
Okay.
Because I'm assuming they're the ones who erect it. I've never rented a fence, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the contractor could have their own fence truck and erect it. I don't know, but I mean, it would make sense to me that we would want to protect it and not have, you know, people stomping all over it.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, give it some time to settle and grow, and you know, it's sensible to me.
so we can find out, or Lara, can you find out?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine, you know, leaving that fence up for, you know, the next several months would be too costly.
I think it's longer than a few months, though. You got the whole summer season.
Well, I was thinking until the winter.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
a
Alderman Siddiqui.
lot of what we talked about is already in the written recommendations we gave, but obviously we've had the site walk and we've had this discussion, and so we'd like to update this so our recommendations are more reflective of the conversation that we're having, if that's amenable to the Conservation Commission.
Well, I think what we have to do tonight, based on where we are with the contractor and them wanting to move forward, we have to make some decisions tonight, and give them guidance so that they can get on the site and complete the restoration work if they're going to finish by early May, right? So our next meeting isn't for 2 weeks, it's the 10th. I don't think we want to wait till then to give them guidance. I think we want to give them guidance, sooner than that, like now. Laura, I mean, you can provide more guidance on what the timeline is, but I think they're probably ready to get in there and do work.
Yeah, so they're waiting on the commission to approve the restoration plan. Once they do that, we have to do a change order with one of our contractors, and then they can start the work. The work is anticipated to take about a month. Just so the commission is aware too, we have a regulatory deadline of April 22nd to submit a RAM completion report. That's not the right thing. There's a report that's supposed to go. I can find it in a second. So it's basically a status update. And if the restoration work were to be complete by then, they could send that completion report and close out the site. And then we would be done with the MCP. Everything with the state would be done. Just due to the timeline of the restoration work itself, that's not going to happen. So we're going to submit this status report. And then from there, when the restoration work is done, we'll complete the RAM completion permanent solution statement. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So let me see. So Joyce, if you wanted to update your, I'm just trying to think of timelines here, right? So if you wanted to update your recommendations from stewardship based on a discussion tonight, we have a meeting in 2 weeks. That's April 10th. We're not really in the growing season just yet, right? Probably a couple weeks after that is when you want to be in the growing season. So we could probably vote on April 10th on your restoration plan recommendations, I'm thinking. And then that's 12 days before the 22nd, which is the deadline that you were talking about, Laura.
Yeah. Does that work with the boulder timing? Do we need to decide about crushing the boulders? Is there an urgency?
I think we all decided we're going to crush them.
So do we have the green light, or do we need to vote, or is it just we all agree?
I think we all agreed, just crush them.
Can we keep a couple?
Yeah.
You gonna want to deliver to your house?
No, on site.
Sure. Keep however many you want. You can spray paint graffiti on them if you want. No, don't do that. But
It was something the stewards had discussed.
yeah, sure. I mean, but there's a zillion of them. That may be the wrong term, but
there's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we agreed to the majority be crushed and used as subgrade fill, which we talked about with the contractor while we were on site. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some things I think we have agreement on tonight, the rocks, the boulders, we're all in agreement on. The restoration of the meadow that was damaged by putting the roadway through. I think we're all firmly on the same page there, that the contractor has to go in and restore that.
Mm.
And then finally, the cover crop, you gave a recommendation in the correspondence that you submitted, and I'm sorry, my recollection on it is it's been a while since I went through it, but we have a recommendation there too for the cover crop.
Not the seed specific.
No, okay, we don't have the exact seed mix, okay.
And there's
You
one
guys
other,
approve it, we'll be able to then proceed to get that recommendation.
by the 12th or 10th, whatever your meeting date is.
10th, yeah.
There was one other thing that was different. On the site walk, we saw that the parking area where we thought they needed to do some restoration really is, it looked like they had plowed the shrubs away from where they had put the stone down for the parking. And in fact, it turns out that was just the natural growth. So we'll be backing. We're not gonna, our recommendation asked them to do some restoration there, and that won't be in part of our terms. I mean, we'll change that.
So you're backing
didn't-
off on that.
Yeah, they didn't do any damage there.
Okay.
It looked like it, but you couldn't see it before. And when they cleared out what they cleared out, now you could see it, so it looked like they did it, but
All right. So it sounds like we have a plan of consensus.
So,
All right. So Joyce, you're gonna update your stewardship recommendations,
Correct.
right? I think Ben provided a good summary there.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
that's all, okay.
So just so I'm super clear, because I don't want to mess this up. Do you guys just want to provide final, or not, maybe not final, but comments to TRC to update the restoration plan for you guys to then vote on that on April 10th? Or are you looking to approve the plan as amended and discussed tonight?
If we can approve the plan as amended and discussed tonight without them being confused, I would be okay with that.
Okay.
I feel like we can do
I
that.
just-
We may have to condition, the cover crop is the last piece. We don't know the exact seed mix, so we may have to condition that on a cover crop seed mix as recommended by the stewardship committee.
Yep.
And then with the boulders, I think we condition with a caveat, the boulders to be crushed and used as subgrade fill, with the exception of, do we have a guess at the number of boulders? Is it gonna be 10 or 20 that you'd like to strategically place?
Oh, 3 or 4.
3, okay, with the exception of,
Okay.
4 boulders. The rest to be crushed and used as subgrade fill.
Okay.
And then finally, that the meadow restoration be performed as previously discussed, as previously committed to by the contractor with stewardship committee.
Can you, I'm just curious about that one because nothing was committed to except for the admitting that they had damaged it, and we never discussed what the restoration was.
Oh, okay.
So that's our worrisome part here. There's no commitment to what they are obligated to restore.
Back to what it was.
Then that would be your motion.
It would be mine.
I think we could refine that even to say, the original lines and grades, in soil materials and, trying to find a phrase to capture like what was growing there originally. I'm sure there is a seed mix that would be appropriate to restore.
So that's, Ben, I'm sorry.
Please.
The problem with the seed mix is we had a 2-year mature meadow. And if you have a seed mix, then we're responsible for managing that.
Right.
So I'm not saying we wouldn't want a seed mix, but I think we need a little, that just came up today when I looked at the old pictures. That we had an active, vibrant habitat that a significant portion of it was taken out. And now we're going to be managing the seed, as it grows from seed to plants, it's going to be another 2-year loss of habitat.
So our preference would be they provide plants that we designate.
Or some plants and seed I mean,
Yeah,
really
at
need to
least
take a
some
look.
portion plants, yeah.
So, so the disturbed areas of the meadow to be restored to the original lines, grades, and soil materials, and the plantings to be coordinated with stewardship committee.
No.
Does that work?
That works.
Thank you.
So, okay, so that covers the boulders, the meadow restoration, and then of course the cover crop will also be in consultation with stewardship committee.
Yeah.
And then that final part, the long-term restoration of the vegetation, hopefully, maybe on the 12th, we'd be in a position to talk about what a budget for that might look like. And so that we could get, because my fear is if we push it out too far, we'll get a lot of pushback from the select board. They don't want to leave the funds hanging out there forever and ever. I can just foresee that happening. So I know it's difficult for us to get certainty this early in the game, but the more certainty that we can get, the better position we're in, if that makes sense.
We'll do our best.
And then, oops. Excuse me. And there's also the fence,
Oh, yeah, the fence.
right? Right. Leaving the fence in place. Talking to them about them. I mean, hopefully they've just, rented it from someplace and it's not their own.
They have.
Have a
They
lease.
said- Yeah, they would have to transfer the lease to us. I'm not sure what that process would look like, but I can get that information.
Okay.
Just so everyone's aware too, I just saw it on the warrant for town meeting. There's a warrant article to rescind some of the unused funding. We have more than enough. We'll be fine, even if they do that, but I just didn't want anyone to see that and be like, that's what I did. I was like, oh no. So I spent a good hour on the phone with the town accountant today, making sure that we were still good funding wise.
Oh,
So
good. Thank you for that.
And the stewards be given a idea of what funding is available after you pay what you're for the bid. I mean, not for the contractors, and then for what this select board are taking back.
yeah, so it's hard to say what's gonna be left now. We have a certain amount that's encumbered per the contract. That amount could change based on the change order that comes with the restoration plan. So I can't give you hard numbers tonight. But as we get the change order settled and we see what restoration is gonna cost us, then we'll have a better idea of where we stand.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you guys wanna take a vote?
Probably clutch together a motion. I think I've got it all written down here.
I think everything that Ben said. Add the fence.
That's the easy route. I'll move that.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Barbara Yaglowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
Great. I will send that out to TRC by Monday.
Okay. And then it looks like we have one other item, which is discussion about open community preservation seat.
Yes. So that's me. So after, I think it's been 10 years on community preservation, time that I've greatly enjoyed.
Oh, continue.
Yeah, I wish I could. I've had some changing family needs. My nuclear family and my extended family, I'm sort of the go-to guy for a great many people, and things have changed, and I don't have the time to dedicate to it that I really feel that I should. So I've had to step back, and I've resigned my seat on community preservation. So with that being said, you know, conservation has a seat on the Community Preservation Committee, as do many other boards, committees, and commissions in town. Planning, open space, historical, affordable housing trust fund committee, and so forth. So conservation seat, of course, can only be filled from conservation. It's a very fulfilling committee to be on. Most years is the fund committee to be on. The town collects the community preservation surtax, and it's used to fund the acquisition of open space, historical preservation, community housing, and recreation projects here in town. And some of the projects, you know, the big one, Chestnut Hill Farm, a number of parks, the Fayville Park restoration, the library facade restoration, the restoration of the townhouse, 84 Main Street, a ton of recreation projects. It's a neat committee to be on. You meet really interesting folks around the community, and I greatly enjoyed my 10 years doing it. Hopefully, I'm selling somebody on the idea of maybe taking part. It's an important committee, and conservation has a really important role on it. So,
How often do they meet?
it's not a set schedule, like, you know, we meet every 3 weeks. It's not a set schedule. It works out to about the same, maybe a little bit less. We tended to meet an awful lot less through the summer. And then it tends to be, it really tends to pick up, you know, sort of after the holidays leading up to town meeting is where it's, you know, every 2 or 3 weeks.
Do we have any volunteers? Do you want to think about it?
I just want to thank Ben. It's huge amount of work you've done over the years, and I think we've all seen the transformation that's happened with many of the projects that this group has helped to fund, and really want to thank you for your leadership. I'm sure it involved a lot of time and a lot of creativity to get things done, and really appreciate your work.
Oh, thank you. It's another thing I will say, I can't believe I forgot to say this. The committee itself is its current membership. It's a great group of people who I'm very much going to miss, you know, meeting every few to several weeks. So anyone who did step into the role, it's a great group of folks to work with. It really is. So listen, the seat's not going anywhere. Only conservation can fill it. And you know, if anyone, as time goes by, starts thinking you might have an interest in it, I can't recommend highly enough giving it a try. I figured, you know what, with so many of the contributing bodies to community preservation, everyone starts out saying, okay, well, it's my turn, I'll do it. I'm going to do it for a year or two. And it's really funny how people get hooked on it. You get into it and you start learning about the Community Preservation Act, and somehow you get hooked. I figured Chris Molinaro left the commission. He talked me into signing up for it. I figured I'd do it, put in my time for a year or two, and here I am 10 years later. So it's anyhow.
Well, thanks, Ben, for doing it for the last 10 years. Can't believe it's been that long.
I know.
But yeah, thank you for stepping in and doing that and representing the commission on that committee. Certainly appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I guess why don't we let folks noodle on that a little bit, and we can bring it up again in the April 10th meeting.
Sounds good.
All right, with that, I think we can adjourn.
No, sorry.
Oh, no, what?
You guys need to issue the order of conditions for 12 Wood. You closed the hearing, but didn't take a vote on the
Okay.
order.
I need a bio break. I'll be right back.
Well, Mark's doing that. Our only special condition was the half dozen plantings of high bush blueberry and spice bush along the southern edge of the property.
We probably also want to make sure that the deck is permeable. I think that would be,
yeah.
Okay. Just the deck or under the deck as well? How specific are we being?
Oh, good point, the deck and any ground cover underneath the deck.
Okay.
I think we did say that the plantings would be coordinated with our consultant, with Joe.
So just in consultation with Joe,
Joe, if
the
they
6
were to,
plantings.
yeah, email you a sketch plan with species and locations.
Yeah, I could take a quick look at that and say yay or nay on
Thumbs
the
up,
appropriateness. Yeah.
Great.
So we're not specifying high bush, blueberry, and spice bush. We're just saying in consultation with Joe.
I think that's right. I
Okay.
think that would probably lead us to the most successful choice of plant for the site when he gets out and looks at it. Because there are a lot of trees, probably a lot of roots, and you just want to make sure you're finding things that are going to be happy.
Yeah, well, that's right. And there's some talk of maybe shade tolerant species. So if they had some good ideas, Joe could look that over.
Thank you guys for walking me through this.
So Laura, while Mark's still gone, I just have to say, you've done a fantastic job stepping up in filling in for Melissa. No, I know it must have been an awful lot to take on, and you've made it pretty seamless, I've got to say. So including sort of holding my hand through the building permit review stuff. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. It feels like I'm juggling a lot of things, so
I bet.
hope I'm not dropping any of them.
Oh, you're
and
doing
if you
awesome.
can let me know.
I'm very impressed, Laura.
Great.
Very
Thank you.
impressed.
Sorry, I know we're meeting in 2 weeks, and then do we then go back to the normal schedule, or?
Yeah.
So there'll be 3 weeks, so then I just don't think my calendar's up to date. So after the 10th, it will be on the 1st?
Yep.
Okay. I'll just do that. Okay.
I don't remember why we switched it, but we did.
I remember Melissa saying there was for some reason we had to have one gap of 2 weeks in the whole year. Something funny
Okay.
just
Was
made
it-
that necessary, and this is what she proposed.
Was the school vacation driven?
Oh, that might have been it.
No,
Sounds
maybe.
vaguely familiar. So Mark, I think we came up with a motion while you were gone with 2 conditions. One for the plantings and one for the deck and the ground cover underneath it being permeable.
Oh. Sounds good. Do we move that?
I move that.
Do we vote?
Yeah, second it. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Barbara Iglovsky,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
All right, now you can adjourn. Thank you.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Well, that was fast. All in favor?
Zulik,
Yes.
Barrington,
Yes.
Upton,
Yes.
Barbara Iglovsky,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pasamato.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
All right.
Great job,
Yeah.
Laura.
Hey.
Have a
Bye.
good night.